Good morning everybody, this is Atre, and today in this practice along video we are going to do some interesting moves. They're very easy and simple to remember, but a lot of fun to do. Let's get started. First things first, it's important to align yourself on the mat neatly. So you will be sitting with your hips in line with the border of the mat, equal space on your right hand side and equal space on your left hand side. Once you're there, you're going to send your knees wide as they can get. Pull the left foot in close to the perineum and have your left knee pointing far out down towards the left hand side and send it as back as it can get. And then bring your right foot exactly on top of it so that you find yourself sitting on a nice big triangle. Once you're there, you're going to then place both your hands on top of the knees and press your hands down into the knees and pull your chest back. Now begin to feel the weight of the arms here. Now weight of the arms helps you to relax your shoulders as well, and then gently lift your chin up, chest up. You want to visualize that your chest is exactly lined up on your hip girdle and your head is pulled back and aligned on top of your chest. Once you're there, you're going to let yourself twist. So how would we twist? We'll look over the right shoulder. Now let the sternum point in the same direction where the right knee is pointing. Now in order to reinforce the twist further, you're going to bring your left hand on top of the right knee here, getting the entire length of the left arm, and then you would put your right hand down onto the floor at the back. Now avoid pressing the palm entirely down onto the mat. Simply think of making a cup with your hand, put your fingertips down onto the floor and use the grip you have over the floor with your fingertips and start bending the arms. And when you bend the arms, you let yourself twist your spine. Now you keep twisting into the spine deeper and deeper with every release of the breath. So as you hold yourself into this position, you just want to remember to hold your spine upright and tall. The rest of the work is to be done with your breath. Inhalations are uplifting, exhalations are rolling your shoulder further out and back. So when you get into this position, you want to stay there for about 3 to 4 breaths. This is like a preparatory twist which helps your spine to get prepared for the twists that are coming up ahead. Now bring your right hand on top of the left knee here. Once you get the entire length of the spine, you want to make sure that your sternum, your left knee and the corner of the mat, they are exactly in one line with each other. Then grip the floor like we did on the other side, bending the arms, creating space between the shoulders and the ears, spine remaining upright, and you'll be looking over the left shoulder and begin to breathe in and out with a lot more consciousness. And it is perfectly fine to breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose. And slowly when you breathe out, you're going to get the body out of this. So see what the inhalation and the exhalations they do to your body. Because breath takes a lot of space inside the lungs and the rib cage, your body is likely to uncoil a little bit when you're holding a twist towards the end range of motion. But whenever you breathe out, you discover 1 to 2 extra degree of rotation, and that's when the poses become the most effective. That's where the entire nectar of the pose is. Now the next thing is the lateral flexion. So you're going to bring your right hand down along the edge of the mat, spread your fingers open and wide, and then slide your hand down along the edge of the mat. Here, grip the floor nice and tight, creating almost a vacuum under your palm and the mat, and internally rotate your elbow. Now once the elbow goes down, you want to go down towards the right. So you don't have to always settle with the first go. So imagine you're doing like 3 to 4 micro push-ups on the side. So once you're there, you settle the elbow down and then start rocking back and forth. So this kind of flossing helps your muscles to understand with what intensity do they need to be engaged when you're carrying out a certain pose or a movement. So when you do that, you also notice how the stretch travels from one part of the body to the other just by shifting the body weight back and forth. And with your left hand, you're going to grab your right knee and you're going to grip that, and then you're going to let the torso align further with the right thigh. Let's say if my chest is now pointing towards the front edge of the mat and I would want it to point towards the right thigh so that I can have a better twist, I will use the help of my left arm. I'll grab the knee and I'll twist it. Continue breathing in and out. And when you breathe in, you're going to pull the chest up higher and now grab the edge of the mat like this. Now when you grab the edge of the mat, not just grab anywhere on the mat, you want to bend your wrist and grab the mat from closer to the elbow. Once you're there, you want to pull the mat away from the body. Now, if you can see that subtle change in the way the body weight shifts itself, the weight would go from the right hip to the left sit bone. So see this, and that's when everything on the left hand side of the torso, the entire muscle belt that's along the rib cage, becomes more engaged, and you get a beautiful stretch. Now, as you hold yourself in there, relax the neck. Why would you need to relax the neck? So that you can use the weight of the head to tilt more body weight towards the right. And when you do that, you're going to now extend your left arm up. You can bring your hand right behind your head, pull your head back, and get the elbow to point up. Now, if you can see your elbow with the left eye, you need to push it so far back to the point where you cannot actually almost see it. Then when you breathe out, you're going to lift this one up, pass this mat towards the left, and plant your right hand here, and keep the elbow on the same spot, and floss along this length of the torso, and breathe in and out. A great muscular massage, right? Imagine the trapezius getting crushed between the bones. That muscle is getting all that massage, squeezing and pumping of the blood in and out. When you breathe out, you're going to drop the mat and push against the floor, throw the body up and back, and when you come out of a pose like this, you held the body in a position where the blood was not circulating as much as it had to, but when you came out of it, all that blood that was prevented from circling towards one side of the body, it rushes back into that side of the body, making the muscles get all that cleansing, and all the muscle fibers, they have that blood circulation now, and all that lactic acid that's been accumulating there just simply washes away. We'll do the same thing onto the other side. It's always a good idea to take a bit of a break between left and right so that you can at least get to absorb that pose the way it has worked on the entire length of the spine. Once you feel that you're ready, you'll do the same thing onto the other side. Bring your left hand down by the side of the left hip, slide, press with the palm down till you get the entire length of the spine. Slide the hand down along the edge of the mat, and fingers are going to spread open and wide. It's easier to grip the mat that way. Internal rotation of the elbow. Lower it down. Now, there's one thing you want to keep in mind, that the elbow is not too close. If the elbow was too close to the body, your spine is not going to get all the space it needs to tilt. Also, the same way, it cannot be very far away from the hips either, because then you're not neatly aligned and the elbow will not be able to take your body weight to do all that kind of flossing, which makes the poses a lot more interesting. So, internal rotation, elbow settle down. So the basic rule is that you want your elbow to be almost in line with your knee and your elbow to be in line with your wrist. Now, if this was here, it will make the entire pose easier, and you will not have the grip over the left shoulder the way you imagine it to be. So if you want to make it a bit more challenging, a bit more tight, make sure that the elbow is resting right under the shoulder. You lift the hand up off the mat, keeping the exact same position with the elbow. You want to send your left arm back. The moment you get to the edge of the mat, you will notice how the back muscles on the left hand side, they're even more engaged, and that's a beautiful feeling. Now begin to shift your body weight back and forth again like we did on the other side. The rest of the work is to be done with your breath. Then grab with your right hand your left knee and let the torso realign itself to face towards the left hand side. In this position, the breath may not go as deep as we imagine it to be, because there's little space and it's a bit congested onto the left hand side. But still focus on breathing in and out, but perhaps pay a little bit more attention towards the exhalations. So promote the exhalations to be longer. And then from there, when you breathe in, like we did on the other side, you're going to grab the edge of the mat a bit closer to the elbow, maintain that tension, you can see that tension, and use the tension to shift the weight towards the right side. So there's a big difference in the way I feel in this pose when I'm here versus when I'm here. So you want to make sure that the body weight shifts far down to the right and you have the entire length of the left. And then begin to floss with your left shoulder also, and you can bring your right hand at the top of your head, behind your head, fingers would be spread open and wide, and it's all about where the elbow gets to point. So get the elbow to point up
Pull longer breaths in while maintaining the tension all along the right hand side of the torso. And then lift this corner of the mat up, pass the mat towards the right, and then settle the left hand down. And now imagine you're under a window and you want to come out of that window and you want to look up. And then you go down in again and then you come up. So this kind of flossing, this kind of very localized, special movement, very specific movements, it's really good for the muscles, and they get to strengthen, they get to stretch in unique ways. Normally we do not get to stretch in those ways. And then when you breathe out, you simply push against the floor and you're going to bring yourself up, back and out of this. So this has covered more or less every possible movement that your spine is capable of doing. We have done the twists, we have done the twist on both the sides, and we have done the lateral flexion. And now the only thing we want to do is a backward bend. So for the backward bend, you're going to go grab your knees nice and tight, fingers pointing back in towards the body. Pull the chest up, get the neck out of the shoulders, and think of this like a backward bend. So the muscles next to the spine are all neatly engaged and they're pressing the belly forward while you're pulling your chest up, open, and back. Keep your lips together and just imagine that your chin is going higher than your noses. It might actually never go, but what it does, it brings your throat in one straight line with your spine, and that is the passage for the breath to go down towards the bottom of the lungs. Imagine how easy it is for you to breathe in when you have your throat in one straight line with your spine. And the next goal you have is to inflate the lungs, almost pack your lungs till you feel that the walls of the lungs are stretching and it's creating all that space inside your rib cage. The floating ribs are opening, and then you're not just working on the muscles, you're also stretching the skin. It's a beautiful musculoskeletal movement when combined with a right length of the breath. So breathe in, let this be the longest inhalation you have done since you've woken up. Once again. And then when you breathe out, you're going to do the exact opposite. So that will be sinking down by making your arms go round, making your back go round. And when you do that, you release those muscles, the muscles that were all working, providing all that kind of strength. You demand length out of those muscles. So just to give you a better angle, I'm going to turn. See what happens to the spine here. So the previous pose was this, almost arching back, all these muscles next to the spine, pushing the back to arch. And the next thing we do is make your back go round, and it gives you a lot more control on where you want the impact of that curve to be on the spine. So if you want more towards the upper back, you keep your weight shifted back. You want the impact to be in the lower back. See how I'm moving my chest forward. Just by doing so, I feel all the impact coming down into the lumbar region. So it's actually, we are just playing around with the intervertebral spaces, how much of space you have in your spine and where you direct that impact of the arch makes a huge difference. And when you get down to the details and subtlety of these kind of movements, you will begin to understand your practice better, you will begin to understand your poses better, and that's when you actually reap the most benefits out of any yoga position you get yourself into. So here, and one metaphor I always use in this position is that imagine the centermost vertebra in your spine, and you want to point that vertebra towards the wall at the back, and that's like the only thing that's protruding outwards towards the direction where your back is. So here. And when you breathe in, you're going to pull the body up and back, and that completes the entire range of motion your spine is capable of doing. Just remember once again that your spine can move in 6 possible directions. Lateral flexion to the right, lateral flexion on the left, twisting to the right, twisting to the left, bending forward and bending backward. So if you continue to practice these movements every day, you will notice that your spine would never ever have any kind of issues. Now, moving on to the next sequence where we are going to get into the tabletop position. Once you get into the tabletop position, you want to have your hands right under your shoulders and imagine a cube under. The shape is a bit more like a cube, and you begin to shift your body weight back and forth. Now press against the floor with the help of your hands. Spread your upper back muscles, stretch them horizontally. Just by doing so, you make your back go a lot rounder. Now, while maintaining that round spine, you want to press against the floor and you want to bring the body weight towards the knees, so like this. So when you were here, the entire impact of the arch is more towards the thoracic and the cervical region of the spine. But when you went pressing against the floor, that impact of the spine, that space between between the vertebrae, is now towards the lumbar region. Extremely satisfying, extremely impactful pose, something that works very well. And just because of how the human body is designed, the center of the body doesn't get to move much. So we need to make sure that the center of the body gets that movement, and this is one very specific way to move the lower back. Push, and then from there, when you breathe out, we are going to now work a little bit on the stretching of the left leg. So extend your left leg out here. So first you want to point the toes out at the back. Now here you shift your body weight back and forth once again. Now this should be easy for a lot of people. Now if you want the stretch to be a bit more impactful, you slide your left foot out. Continue to slide your left foot out as it can get, and now adjust your hands accordingly. So bring your hands right under the shoulders. So even if half of your body is off the mat, it's perfectly fine. Now here, when you hold yourself in this position, easy. When you want to make it a bit more impactful, you want to go back. Supremely comfortable on the knee. And you still want that stretch coming along the inner line of the left thigh. So when you breathe out, you're going to simply drop the right arm down onto the floor like this. And when you breathe out, you're going to extend your left arm and grab the corner of the mat in front. Now pull the mat away from the body. Now just by doing so, you're shifting the body weight towards the knees and the foot and the hips at the back. Then you slide your right hand under and pass the arm like this under. Twists your spine in the most amazing way. You continue to breathe in and out and maintain the tension. Now look at the pose, the difference it makes without the tension. And when I maintain the tension, there's a huge difference in the way the muscles are getting stretched. Then take a long deep breath in. You're going to bring the weight back and you're going to bring the leg in. Now bring the leg in here. Bring your left knee somewhere in the center of the mat. Imagine a long line dividing your mat in two. So bring that left knee in the center of that length, and then the right leg goes over and you cross your legs like this. Make it as tight as it can get. Then point the toes out at the back and then have the right foot go over the left calf muscle so that the leg can be pinned down into the mat. So this, like this. So once it's there, you would feel a strong grip, and how a lot of weight is towards the legs side. It feels very compact, it feels very astringent, it feels very tight, and all you have to do is to shift your weight from one side to the other. So first shift the weight towards the right. So if it's your right leg over the left, you want to lean your hips to the right. Extremely satisfying stretch on the inner left thigh. Breathe into the pose. You do the same thing onto the other side, pushing hips to the side, and then from there point your toes back in. Makes it even more tighter, more impactful. And once you're there, you press against the floor and you lift your knees up. Get down and relax. Point your toes out, untuck, and we'll do the same thing onto the other side. Again, starting with the tabletop position, you're going to extend your right leg out. First, move back and forth, keep your toes pointed in for the moment, and then begin to slide your foot out to the point where you feel that it's relaxed, but also there's a bit of an element of challenge. Then realign your hands, bring them back under your shoulders, continue to move back and forth. Lifting the toes up makes a big difference. It's a very small and subtle detail, but makes all the big difference. The stretch is on the inner line of the right thigh. Push and press. Imagine there was something that you're almost trying to sit on. So go back. And if you find it's a bit hard to balance in any way, you can bring the left foot in closer towards the front edge of the mat. Go back again. You can further lower the body down. See whatever your body is capable of doing today. Go easy at your own pace. Forward. If you feel that you can slide your right leg further out, feel free to do so. Then when you breathe out, you're going to first settle your left arm down. Then go grab the edge of the mat in front with your right. Pull the length of the mat. Bring your left hand under and slide. Continue to breathe in and out. A lot of things happening in this pose. There's a lot of tension of the muscles along the right hand side of the rib cage. The spine, if you notice, is twisted. This stretch coming along the inner line of the right thigh. And all you have to do is fill your lungs with long, deep inhalations. And maintain the tension. Right hand going away from the head. Right foot going away further. Hips going towards the heel at the back. Then from there, when you breathe out, grip the floor again with your right foot. Grab the mat like this. Bring your left arm from underneath. Plant your hand back. Slowly bring your knees together. And now bring your right knee a bit on the inner line, along the excess of the mat. Left foot goes from over. Already get your thigh close to the knee, as close as it can get. So leave no space, because the closer it is, the tighter you would feel, and easier will it be for your foot to go on top of the other leg, which is down. And that's important, because that is the most stringent position you can ever feel in a yoga pose. So point the toes out to make it easier. Wiggle your way out. Now, when you see me doing it, it might look very easy. For some of us, it's not exactly very easy. So it's perfectly fine. Even if you cannot get the foot on top of the shin, it is okay. Not a big deal, not a problem. You still get to experience the pose in the same way. So hips leaning to the right, then hips leaning to the left. Now, one thing you want to make sure that your left hand is still under your left shoulder, because that's when the arm will tire the least. If your hand is here by any chance, it is a lot more muscular work in terms of strength that your arm has to provide. So just think of your left arm as a pillar. Twist, breathe in. Out onto the other side. And then from there, point the toes back in here. Shift the weight a bit back. Adjust if there's anything you need to adjust here into the pose, and lift. Lower the knee down, untuck the foot. Simply come out of this, back to the center, and wow, you should be a different person by now altogether, because the way this entire sequence works is amazing. And just keep in mind that we don't want to rush into the yoga positions. Yoga works in a very different way from any other forms of workout. You want to slow down yourself into the yoga poses, and you want to hold a yoga poses for a certain number of breaths. Why? Because a yoga pose will take its time to work on your body. The muscle will take their own time to respond, to that kind of tension you're putting them through, to gain that length for them, and so does the joints. And meanwhile, while you're hanging out in those poses, you need to just make sure that you're breathing in and out. There's no retention of the breath. And this is a building block for your yoga practice. So once you understand the importance of how you slow yourself down into a yoga position, you have ticked the box of Sukham, Sthiram, Asanam, which means a yoga pose is complete when it's comfortable. That's exactly what we are here for. This is Atre. For more such practice and sequences, do comment, do subscribe, and share it with your friends.